When we ask, is a function positive or negative at a specific x value, what we're actually asking is, when I plug in this x value, the y that comes out, that answer, is it a positive number answer or a negative number answer? So if I told you that f of 2 is 7, since the answer is a positive 7, we would say f is positive at 2. But if at f at 2 we said that was negative 3, that's a negative answer, so we would say it's negative at 2. So when we're thinking about that, what we're looking at is the y value positive or negative, and that is sort of whether we decide whether something is positive or negative. But just like with increasing and decreasing, what we report is not the y. The y tells us is it positive or negative, but we are going to report the x values again in interval notation. So let's look at a really good example of how they're going to ask these questions and what our answers should be. So the questions are going to look like this. Over what x values is f of x greater than 0? So let's first decide, are they asking about positive or negative? So f of x is the y value, and we want to be greater than 0. If something is greater than 0, are they asking for positive or negative? Well, greater than 0 is asking, where is the y value positive? All right, so let's look at our graph here. We're looking at this picture and we need to decide, where are the y values positive? So, okay, if we looked at, say, x is negative 2, here's the y value. Is that y value positive? No, it's like negative 20 or something. That's not positive. Well, what about here at like negative 1.5? Is that y value positive? No, that y value is not positive. It's a negative something. But what about over here when we get just a little bit bigger than 1? Is that y value positive? Yes. And what about these y values? Are these y values all positive? Yes. So we start, where does it start being positive? It kind of starts being positive right here. And then all of these y values, all of this part of the graph have y values that are positive until we get where? Well, until we get right here to this y, to this x where the y value is 0. Remember, 0 is neither negative nor positive. Okay, then what happens here? Are these y values positive? Nope, they're negative. And where do we start being positive again? Well, here we hit 0, and look at after this. Are all of these y's positive? Yes, they are. And remember, if it runs off the graph, we imagine it goes forever. Does that make sense? So everything I've kind of highlighted in green here, all of these have positive y values. But what do we report? We report the x's where it starts being positive and then where it ends being positive in interval notation. So as we move left to right, here is the first place where the graph goes into the positive regions, and that is an x of negative 1. And here, so we're positive, 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 positive until we get right here, which is an x of 3. And see how it's greater than, not greater than or equal to. So we will report that the y values are positive from x equals negative 1 to x equals 3. Then it goes negative for a little while, and then it starts being positive again here at this x, which is 5. And then with this arrow, what that means is as we go this way forever, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, which is all positive. So it is also positive starting at x is 5 and going to x is infinity. So notice what we're reporting. Again, x values. Now, let's look at the next question. This says, over what x values is f of x less than 0? Well, what does less than 0 mean? Well, less than 0 means negative, right? If you're less than 0, you're a negative number. So where is the y negative? Well, we talked about it earlier. Look at all of these y's. All of these y's in this section for the graph, all of these y's are negative. And remember this little bit over here? The y values here are also negative. But what do we report? We don't report the y values. The y values tell us it's negative. We report the x's over which that is happening. So let's look at this tail piece right here. Remember, this down means forever, so as we go this way forever, we're just going to keep staying negative y, negative y, negative y. So what is the first x value as we go forever to the left? Well, that's negative infinity is where we're going to start being negative. And where do we stop being negative? Again, we stop that at that negative 1. And then it's positive for this bit up here. And then where do we start being negative again? We start being negative at 3 and we end being negative at 5. So this is how you decide whether a graph is positive or negative by looking at the y, but then reporting the x's over which that is happening.